Alright, hey, this is Jesse with Create This. Today I'm going to talk about another GTX 970 versus GTX 740 issue on the Hackintosh that I made for my son. Yesterday I was working and my son Isaac was editing a video in Final Cut Pro on his brand new Hackintosh, and he noticed that it was crashing all of a sudden. He dug into it and he found out that the fade to color transition is what was causing the crash. There it is, fade to color. And so what we found is that you can do jump cuts, you can do titles, you can do, a lot of the things that you would normally do in Final Cut Pro. You can even do the Brucex test, and it doesn't crash at all. But the second you do some of the transitions on an actual clip, right? The Brucex test doesn't do a clip. It just has like a bunch of transitions without a clip. As soon as you do a transition on a clip, Final Cut Pro will crash for the 970, right? So today what we're going to do is we're going to test this out on the 970 and also on the 740 with the web driver and without the web driver. So we're going to use, right now I am running the Nvidia Web Driver, and we're going to use the OS X default drivers on the 740. I can't use the OS X default drivers with the GTX 970 because it doesn't work. Like, you get all this snow on the screen and the refresh rate is terrible. It's totally broken. So we'll physically swap out the cards and try that. But just to take a look at the version that we're running 346.03.04F02. Okay, and so I will demonstrate the crash now. I will copy our fade to color transition somewhere on the timeline. I will Control R to render it, and then I will do a cut. And this usually breaks it pretty quickly as soon as you start doing cuts. And of course it is not breaking it. Let's try. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So there's our crash. There's our report. And we can see that the CV display link thread is the one that crashed. So I'm not going to send this to Apple because I don't know that they care about Hackintoshes. So I did some research on the internet, and from the TonyMacX86.com forum, there's somebody who complains about a previous version of the Nvidia Web Driver doing the same thing. He says that it's crashing CV display link. So this is apparently an issue that's been out there for a couple of versions. So if you look at the page where they, list all of the drivers, you can see that 346.03.03F02 is the one that they were talking about, and this is the one that I'm running. So it's been going on for a while. Now, what we'll do is we'll shut this down, and we will reboot into the GTX 740. I'll install that in the machine now, and we will see if Final Cut Pro crashes using the web driver on the GTX 740. Testing. Okay, so we are indeed using the Nvidia Web Driver here. Let's see. We are indeed using the GTX 740. It was actually the most painless reinstall, reboot operation of a card that I've done yet. Let's see if it crashes with Final Cut Pro and a transition. Alright, so here's my clip with the transition. There we go. Still got a crash. Okay, so at this point I already know what the crash is, so I'm not going to look at the report. So now we're going to reboot into the OS X default driver, and we're going to see if the crash still happens with the 740. Now again, I can't do this with the 970 because the 970 doesn't work with the OS X default driver. But it does work with the 740, so let's see what happens. We are indeed running the OS X default web driver. Let's start up Final Cut Pro here. Let's see if we can get her to crash. So I'm going to delete this transition here, and then I'm going to move it to somewhere else. Go ahead and render it, and then we'll make some cuts. LG. Okay, so I'm going to call it at this point. I think it would have crashed if it was going to crash at this point, so that seems to be successful. There you have it. The GTX 970. I'm sorry, I meant that the 740 is installed right now. So I promise, the 740 is installed. Anyway, so here's a question for all of you watching this video. Is it possible to run the 740 and the 970 inside the machine at the same time? Because this is a dual boot machine and my son uses the Windows drive for gaming. So what I would like to do is I'd like to have the 740 in here so that he can use Final Cut Pro with the i7 processor and have nice fast render times and editing and performance. But I'd like him to still be able to reboot into the 970 in Windows. So leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you think that's possible and how, what the best way would be for me to accomplish that. This is Jesse with Create This. If you found this useful or interesting, please click the like button. Leave me a comment down below if you got anything to say. As always, thanks for watching and please subscribe.